Hey, what's up? GW coming to you live. One thing I want to talk about, first of all, two things actually. One, I know I've been absent a little bit here from this, and that's because my parents needed my help, and we've had a lot of personal things going on. Basically, you guys probably know when your parents get old, you have to do things for them, obviously. So I've been cutting grass and doing some lawn care for my dad, and I think in a weird way, it's bringing me and him closer. We've never been the type to really, chop it up, get close. I mean, we have a good relationship, but not a real close one. And I think this is something when he passes, I'm going to remember, God willing, God forbid. So there's that. Second thing, I I noticed that I noticed in the news that Carlos Mencia. You guys probably, if you guys don't know him, I'll tell you about my first experience with him. And I thought he was awesome. I really did. Basically, in the heyday of HBO used to have on the comedy half hour. And one of the first acts I had ever seen on that was Carlos Mencia. He had two of them, in fact. And I believe if you have HBO Max or Amazon, I'm not sure which, but you can go back and you can watch the comedy half hour with him in it. And I had never heard any Mexican humor other than Cheech and Chong, obviously. They were the big ones, and, everybody knew about them 70s counterculture icons. But Carlos came out the gate swinging. I mean, he was offensive. He was politically incorrect, but at the same time, as offensive and as scathing as his jokes and observations were, there was a lot of common sense. The end of his first stand up, after he's taken you through this offensively racist, point fingers at everybody type tour that he gave you for 30 minutes, maybe 35, I'm not sure. He looked right at the camera and he says, there's never been a Mexican Andrew Dice Clay or a Mexican famous comedian, and he hooked you in. And he goes, you know what? He goes, if you don't like my stand up, fuck you. And he hooked you in, right? And he reeled you in and he got you. And a couple years later, Carlos actually had his own TV show. Mind of Mencia was on Comedy Central. I should know, I have all 3 volumes. Where it was a sketch comedy show. And around that time, he had released a few records. One of them was called Take a Joke America. And if you haven't heard it, check it out on Amazon Music, but do not play it for kids. You will find it to be probably one of the funniest, most outrageously offensive comedy albums you have ever heard. I used to have it, and dude didn't even get 2 sentences off, and I was busting a gut. But I dug it. So needless to say, he was an awesome comedian. I really liked him. And then I read on the Google, the news, that he had been arrested for not paying taxes. And I said, what? Now, he obviously is a smart man for making all these observations about, all kinds of, ethnic groups. And his comedy garnered some firestorm from Joe Rogan. Apparently, Joe Rogan said he was stealing off of everybody. His nickname then became Carlos Mencia. He insisted he didn't. I don't know, and I'm not going to get into the middle of that, but I will tell you that when you listen to his stuff and you listen to like George Lopez, it all kind of sounds the same. But anyway, so I read he didn't pay his taxes and he's on 19 felony charges. And I'm like, okay, so he just wanted to be in the line with Wesley Snipes and Nicolas Cage. Those 2 guys never paid their taxes. And, well, Nicolas Cage has taken every role under the sun, at least to pay it back. Wesley Snipes, I don't even know if he did anything that went direct to video that anyone's even cared about. And it's pretty sad. It's pretty sad when one of the people you look up to, your celebrity heroes, actually falter And you just think that that whole thing could avoid it had he would have paid his taxes. Now, I'm sure there's more to the story. But it's a sad state of affairs, I'm telling you guys. It really is. And we've had some celebrity deaths, a couple that I don't even know the name of, but there's a lot of them been recently, and it's sad. The world's still reeling with the Nancy Guthrie thing. No one has seemed to heard. I think it's day, 150, 160, I don't know. But I don't know if they're ever going to find out what happened to her. Now, I did read something yesterday that they found unmarked graves near her house, near Nancy Guthrie's mother's house. So I'm wondering if she's buried in plain sight. I don't know. But it's crazy. It definitely is. The world's changing out there, man. I'm telling you. I don't know. But like I said, I've been helping my dad and, everything. And I wanted to come on here yesterday and make a Father's Day video. But I didn't have the time. I was running around. We had to do double duty yesterday. We had to not only visit Dawn's father, who's buried in the cemetery, and then do the trek to my family. So it was a very chaotic, very emotional, very hard to get through day, And my wife, God bless her, her dad's been gone for X number of years. And it's really hard on her. And every year, you think it's going to get easier, and it doesn't. And I try to be her backbone, And granted, I can't say anything because I am not in that boat, but I feel deeply for her. I feel like I should try to intervene and do things, and the best, can't do it. You just have to let them work it out themselves. So I don't know. It was just an emotionally rough day to get through. And yesterday, my wife got me the Hellraiser Quartet collection that Arrow put out. And yesterday I finished it. And Hellraiser 4, you guys, is a mess. Now, start to finish, it's a mess. And I read about the production because I watched it, and I'm like going, okay, Hellraiser 3 was pretty much, it was a B-movie level story. It was great. It had Pinhead, it had violence, it had all this stuff. It had Cenobites, and it was entertaining. You get to Hellraiser 4, and the problem with it is, first of all, the narrative. It tries to tell two stories at once and gets muddled in between. The acting, I hate to say it, guys, the acting... Apparently Pinhead heard me and knocked my phone over. The acting is pretty much wooden. And the only one that does a good job, obviously, is Doug Bradley. And if you haven't seen it, or you're wondering what the premise is that there is a descendant of the person who made the puzzle box. And he's in space. And at the beginning of the movie, Space Marines kind of storm the space station. Now, mind you, the third one took place on Earth. And basically stormed this spaceship. And before arresting him, he tells the Space Marines, hey, look, I got a puzzle. I'm going to trap Pinhead, whatever. Great setup, bad execution, and you can tell this thing was basically cut up to shreds. And I think that Clive Barker was not happy about this, and it was supposed to be Doug Bradley's last foray into Pinhead. Granted, it has a solid conclusion, but it feels like an hour and 25 minute slog of you trying to put the pieces together and honestly telling two stories. Sometimes it works. This case it doesn't. And there's a family who apparently has been battling the Cenobites for years, obviously, that was never mentioned in Hellraiser 1 or 2 or 3. So my question would be, 4 is set in the future as well. And my point is that if you were going to do a Hellraiser 4, why not make it a prequel only? This thing served as a prequel and a sequel, and it was really terrible. And it was the last one shown theatrically. And I can remember when this came out, because I was in Butler area Votech, and there was a kid in there named Robert Lightham. And I didn't know crap about Hellraiser. I mean, you knew Freddy, Jason, and Halloween, Michael Myers, but you didn't know anything about Pinhead. I didn't care. Because the only thing I had seen from Clive Barker at that point was Rawhead Rex, and if you guys know my opinion, that's the rubber monster movie, where halfway through, Rawhead Rex burst out of the cemetery, whatever, or out of a statue, and you can see his zipper on the back of him. Watch the movie, I ain't lying. There's a few shots with him with the zipper on. You know what I'm saying? I got my phone propped up against the toaster, so in case you're wondering, it keeps slipping. I don't know why. But he went to the theater to see it. I was good friends with Rob. Rob used to work at a hotel. And he said it was pretty good. But he said it was kind of horrible. So fast forward to years later, I'd watched it a couple times, as a teenager, not realizing how bad it was. But after watching the first 3 entries, it really falters quite a bit. Now, there have been a lot of sequels after that. Hellraiser, Hellseeker, Hellraiser Deader, Hellraiser Hellworld. There's been an ungodly amount of Hellraisers, and I believe there's going to be a reboot in the future. Now, also on the Hellraiser front, if you fired up your PS5 lately, you will probably notice a trailer for the game. Now, the game looks similar to the first 3 movies, which I am excited about, and I hope it doesn't veer off into corny territory. So, if you're looking for something and you like the first 3 or haven't even ventured or seen how bad this is, I'll tell you what, on a scale of 1 out of 10, this thing's about a 6. It's not great. It's not terrible. It just was rushed, and it just doesn't hold up, guys. I'm sorry. So I checked that out. American Ninja Warrior's back. And me and my wife love that show because that show is great. You get to see all them people, and you get to see them fall in the water, and every time we turn around, they're changing the obstacle course. I love watching American Ninja Warrior. That's my jam, right? So, I don't know. But, yeah, it's been a trip, and I'm sorry that I haven't been on lately. Like I was telling somebody, I was like, you mean to do things. You have your heart set on things, and then life kicks your ass, man. It really does. Life will be like, you know what? You're not doing this today. You're going to do that because. Speaking of life kicking your ass, about last week we had, and I'm not joking, guys, we had an EF0 roll through here. And we've had them before, okay? But never have I had to hide in the basement. And I was laying down on the floor with my wife and my cat because it really sounded like it was going to rip a hole in the house. I've never had that happen. The lights flickered. It hailed really, really hard. I'm glad my car wasn't outside. It was just terrible. But it was weird because you heard the hail, you saw the hail, but there was no rain, and the wind was just incredibly atrocious. And I don't know, that was not fun. So EF0s ain't fun at all. So, but yeah, so I don't know, man. It's been one thing after another with me. And yeah, stay away from Hellraiser 4. I mean, watch it on a rainy day, Check that out. Nothing really good on the horror movie front that I know of. I heard, and I'm trying to get, more details on it, but I heard they're making a Texas Chainsaw Massacre TV show, and my thought was anything would be better than that god-awful movie we got from Netflix, Anything would be better. But I hope they do it justice. I hope they make it eerie, and I hope they make it very, very graphically macabre. Speaking of macabre, one of my joys lately has been watching Tales from the Crypt on Shudder. And like I said, I had watched some of them when they were first on HBO, but they were always on like at 2:30 in the morning or something like that, on some ungodly time. And if you get a minute, start from the very beginning and watch the entire show, except for the last episode. The last episode kind of faltered really, really hard because it's a retelling of the Three Little Pigs. And it's not exactly that great. But you'll see a lot of celebrities in there. You'll see Michael J. Fox, Roger Daltrey. You'll see Kevin Dillon. You will see Michael J. Fox. Let's see who else. Tracy Lords is in an episode. There are so many celebrities. Joe Pesci. You know. Who's that guy that was in Twister? Bill Paxton. You know, all these guys. Kyle MacLachlan is in Carry On Death. And if you haven't checked those out, those are amazing and they still hold up to this day. You know, Morton Downey Jr. You guys remember him? He had the talk show on 53. Yeah, Pablum Puking Scum. You guys remember that? He's in an episode. I know I'm going way back with that. I'll tell you about that show when I was real little. You know, I wasn't allowed to watch it because of the content of it. I didn't understand it. I just thought it was great. But, yeah, he's in there. It's good stuff. So definitely check out Tales from the Crypt. Other than that, just been life as general, you know, gearing up for the summer. You know, hopefully do a lot more reviews. We are going to be at the Harrisville Parade, so I am going to try to get YouTube to cooperate this year. We're going to just do a standard, you know, drive-by, you know, film, because that's one of my highest rated videos, and I'm glad that I was a part of that. And again, thank you to Jason McBride. That was a memory that I will carry with me for the rest of my life, and it's all because of you, Jay. McBride's is awesome. You guys are in Boyers. Check out McBride's. They got the best food in town. Trust me, I signed a menu. And, yeah. And if you guys haven't check out, I hope he changed the name of his channel, but check out the Knight Rider Historical Preservation Society. It's ran by one of my top dudes, one of my coolest friends, Joe. You know, check it out. You know, he's a good dude, man. I'm telling you, check his channel out. It was him and his buddy, but now it's just him. You know, I don't know if he wants me to say his last name, so I'm just gonna say, hey, you know, whatever. Other than that, been watching some anime. You know, those are cool. You know, definitely check those out. But yeah, it's insane. So I just wanted to give you a little update and talk about, like I said, the Carlos Mencia thing. Talk to you about, you know, what's been going on. Like I said, big shout out to Lawheads gas station. Always friendly, always cool. You know, and yeah, I don't know. It's been crazy lately. So I apologize for not sending my shout out to all the fathers out there who subscribe to me or who know. Happy late Father's Day, you know. Which that's cool too. If you guys want to watch something horror related that deals with Father's Day, check out Creep Show episode 1 or story 1 of the movie Father's Day. Great one. Short, to the point. If you haven't seen it, it's got the EC comic flavor to it. It's about a father who just wants a piece of cake and gets bashed in the head with an ashtray, comes back on Father's Day years later to get his cake, and it couldn't be done any better than that, so thank you, Stephen King, for that. But, yeah, there's more to me than horror, guys, but that's just my pet peeve. But I don't know. Not much else going on. Yeah, that Carlos Mencia thing was pretty shocking. And I think Ben Burt was the guy that passed away from Industrial Light and Magic, and he worked alongside George Lucas. and I got to know him a little bit from a show called From Star Wars to Jedi, Making of a Saga. And I don't know if you can find that anywhere. HBO showed that once, and it gave you the ins and the outs of the whole Star Wars universe, how two people have to work Jabba the Hutt, how, it was conceived and everything. And it was a great hour, I think hour and a half making a thing. I don't know if they released that anywhere. But he's on there and he's talking about special effects, and yeah. So check that out. If you can find that, Star Wars to Jedi, The Making of a Saga, and it's old, and I don't even know if they ever made it on DVD or anything, but it's worth checking out. It really is. I really enjoy, I always love Lucasfilms because they brought not only the fantasy, but their work had a signature flair. When you watched a Lucasfilm, you knew you were going to get high caliber action scenes. You were going to get drama. You were going to get intense battles that bordered on the PG-13. You also had good stories. And I remember they had a magazine, Lucasfilm magazine, because I remember in the middle of it, you could order all this stuff, right? You could order, lightsaber. You could order Indiana Jones, machete. The big thing he had to cut the bridge in Temple Doom. You could order that thing. You could order the fedora hat, the whip, the whole shit. I don't know if anybody ever did that, because them things were ungodly priced. But yeah, they used to have a magazine, Lucasfilm magazine. Bet you guys didn't know that, huh? I used to get it. I don't know what happened to all my old issues. But yeah, he was pretty cool. He was a set designer, I believe, as well. I don't know. A lot of people passing away, man, and it sucks. Sucks getting old. You don't ever want to get old. Because when you get old, you realize life isn't a fantasy. You realize life is life. It sucks. It's not fun. So, I'm going to leave you with that, but I'm sorry that I've been away for a few weeks, and it wasn't my intention. I just had other priorities that I had to shift to. And it's been kind of chaotic here, guys. It really has. Storms rolling in. I got lawn care going on. I got my parents I got to, help out. My mom told me yesterday, she's like, whenever I die, I want to sell this property. I don't want this property. I don't want you guys to have it. Okay, well, thanks, Mom, but what's that? Just got to roll with the punches, I guess. But I want to thank all my fans for sticking with me through thick nor thin, and I hope this weekend, we're not doing anything as far as I know, so hopefully I'll be able to watch some good horror movies, come back, give you some good reviews. And the last time I did a review, I got to explain that real quick. YouTube decided that my phone storage was full and decided to cut me off. So then I deleted something, went back on, and I tried to, finish up whatever I was talking about, but it chopped that off too. So I'm just going to leave that in limbo where it is. But I felt like I owed you guys an explanation for that. Peace.